Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Moreno Show. Guys, today's going to be a little bit of a different video. Why? Because I'm going to be talking to you guys about my newest newsletter. And guys, I think this conversation is so important. I don't think it's good enough to just stay as a newsletter. I actually think this is something that impacts every single person. This impacts how we see politics, impacts how we consume news. And I haven't seen anyone else talk about this conversation. I haven't seen anyone else on the internet have this, but I did, and I'm so happy I get to share it with you. So let's go ahead, hunker down. I don't think this is going to be a long episode, so please stick with me through it. And yeah, let's go ahead and jump right in. So the title of this conversation is "The Biggest Threat to Politics Isn't What You Think, It's Worse." And I know that sounds extreme, but this has never been more accurate. And I'm telling you guys, it's like all the stars just connected or all the dots just connected whenever I was building this conversation. This is something that I've been feeling for so long, but I haven't really been able to put into words. So I'm just going to go ahead and talk. I do want every single one of you to go ahead and sign up for the newsletter and read it, but I do want to have kind of another conversation on top of it with you guys. So this conversation is called "The Biggest Threat to Politics," and I think what people might initially believe is that, oh no, sorry. I had to go and start my music again because every time I record, I actually listen to music. So I don't actually listen to myself talk, which is weird, but it's just kind of how I operate. But this is about the biggest threat, and I think initially you might think that I'm talking about a person, because people often in this space they think that it's always about people. It's like the biggest threat in politics is definitely Kamala Harris. The biggest threat in politics is definitely Joe Biden. The biggest threat is Bernie Sanders, or the biggest threat is President Trump, or even whenever RFK Jr.'s confirmation hearings were happening, people were like, the biggest threat in the whole world is RFK Jr. We cannot have him as a HHS secretary. Absolutely not. And it's like, guys, none of that is true. And even in this article, I like down here, I talk about how like the current policy, the current currency in politics is actually extremism. Okay, we treat these very extreme edges of our political dialogue, and we treat it as if that actually represents an entire party, and it's just not true. The extreme right does not represent the right. The extreme left does not represent the left. But the language that we use is just so absolute, and that's a really, really big problem. We can't necessarily do that. I don't know if that actually pushes humanity forward, and I actually think it actually begins to crumble things. So I do say that. Look at this. I write, politicians discovered that the best way to get attention isn't to solve problems, but it's to make people angry. And I think we see this all the time. I see this every day whenever I'm scrolling through X, or I'm trying to learn, what are the biggest conversations happening in the political arena. And oftentimes the biggest ones are just about making people angry. And, let me go ahead and pull up an example. Check this out. I watch this guy a lot. His name is Keith Edwards, and if you could indulge me for a second, like look at some of these conversations that he has. So many of these are actually just really angry. It's about catching someone. It's about seeing the destruction happen right before their eyes. See, like it's about Joe Rogan, collapsing with Elon Musk, right? It's about MAGA voters being just like so upset and really, really aggravated. And it's like these conversations are hot because people continue to click on them, but it's like those conversations actually don't bring people together. They actually drive people further, because the left continues to be reaffirmed in what they believe, and it's like, oh my gosh, those people, they are complete psychos, and then they just end up not talking to them, and the conversations don't get better, they get worse. People don't get closer, they get pushed further. And I don't know if that's the answer in the long run. And I have another example here in the news that I say, look around. On one side, Kamala Harris was literally screaming that democracy is collapsing. While on the other side, President Trump was saying that America would be doomed without him. These are like actual words that they said. I continue and I say, somewhere along the line, people stopped trying to persuade with the best ideas, and instead they took extremes to a whole new level. And I used to say this a lot. I'm like, I love politics because in this arena, the best ideas win. I used to believe that. I really did. Now, the more I study things happening in, kind of in an anthropological way, I'm like, people aren't as attracted to new ideas anymore, more than they are attracted to extremism, more than they are attracted to something that caught on fire, some car crash. It's like a car crash effect. Like what makes a move on the internet isn't a shiny new car, it's actually a car crash. And right now we see car crashes happening essentially, every single day. Every single day there's something new going on, there's some new destruction happening, and there's people talking about it, right? But one of the core reasons why I loved RFK Jr. was because he was someone who didn't play into that game. He was someone who was for common sense solutions. He was for not necessarily just focusing on the problem and destroying the side. He was like, this is the problem, this is how we fix the problem, and this is how it'll actually benefit like most of Americans' lives. And I'm like, yes, I love that, because you're making it about the ideas. You're making it about people, you're not making it about parties. This is good. But somewhere along the line, we missed them. We stopped being us. And that sucks. We started letting the people on the way extreme end of the stick hold all the power, because they suddenly have the megaphone and now they have all the influence, and now they're next to President Trump and XYZ. But those people who play on that tension, they're not the ones who suffer any of the consequences. It's people like me, it's people like you, it's our friends and our families who are hurt, because they see the destruction and they feel the division, and they feel that. And it's so unfortunate, because the people at the highest level, the people operating there in the White House, or the people operating in Washington, D.C., they're the ones pulling all the strings. They're not the ones who actually have to feel it whenever they're at, Starbucks or their local coffee shop, and they feel like they can't even order comfortably because they feel the division is so strong, because maybe they're a liberal in a red city, or maybe they're a Republican in Denver, Colorado, or wherever, because they think that the state of our country is on the verge of destruction, and that's just not true. Like, even look at this again, this Harvard Harris poll. Like, I'm going to go back to it for a while, just because I think it was so eye opening. You know what this tells me? This tells me that most people aren't as divided as the media makes you seem, right? Like, look at this. On even one of the most hottest topics, where like the top of this says deporting immigrants who are here illegally and have committed crimes. Okay, look at this. This says that 81% of people support this. Only 19 people oppose it. And Democrats are 70% of them. Republicans are 92%. This is crazy. This is something that most of America is actually united in. Yeah, CNN and MSNBC, they toy with your emotions, and they play this emotional game to try to make people think that what's happening on the right is so unethical and that it shouldn't exist. When in reality, Democrats are like, you know what? I actually like this idea. Even continuing underneath it, it says undertaking a full scale effort to find and eliminate fraud and waste in government expenditures. Every news media place on the left will go ahead and tell you, like, how dare he? Elon Musk is an unelected a bureaucrat who is going ahead and just slashing things and pocketing billions. How dare he? He should never exist, right? And it's like, okay, well, most of Democrats actually believe that there is fraud and there is waste in our government. They actually are okay with this happening. And obviously most Republicans are okay with this happening. The total support for this policy is 76%, and the total opposition is 24%. Again, like looking at the continuing on, closing the border with added security and policies that discourage illegal crossings. Guys, Democrats want a secure border. Democrats are feeling this. But the story on CNN and MSNBC and all these places is that, like, look how terrible this Trump administration is. They are dividing families. They are separating families here. There's some people who are here because they have a green card are now getting it stripped away. These are the stories that you're hearing. But it's like, no, Democrats are actually okay with this. The gap between where regular people are and where mainstream media is has never been wider. I'm telling you. And I write this, and I'm just going to repeat it just because really, I think it's really important. I write, the extremes on all sides are dominating every conversation because they're the ones who show up. They show up to the conversation. They're the loudest on social media. They pressure politicians to go further, press harder, and take more extreme stances, while all the people who want common sense solutions are simply too busy living their lives to get involved. Which is exactly how we got to a system where the loudest voices create the future for the rest of us to experience. But it doesn't have to be that way. And if you can imagine, like, the extreme right and the extreme left are so miles apart. But the people who lean left, the people who simply lean right, they are actually, that's actually not too distant. And if this poll tells you anything, if this is the biggest takeaway from the video, it's like, guys, we're actually not as divided as people make us seem. But the way that we interpret our media, the way that we consume our news, will make us seem will make it seem elsewhere. Or I continue on, I say, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I don't care if you lean left, right, somewhere in between, but the system just isn't working. We don't need extremists. We need people who care deeply about solving real problems. People with vision, resilience, and a work ethic needed to work hard and get things done. Because let's be real, the battle isn't between Democrats and Republicans. It's between those who are on the extreme edge and the rest of us. I even continue and I say, like, that's why I love getting to do what I'm doing right now. I love getting to have these conversations online. I've seen it actually transfer to the physical space, and to see these words actually make a difference. Where we dive into the nuance, where we understand that things aren't necessarily black or white, or even just sharing other perspectives in a way that doesn't degrade or demean anybody. But what we do here matters. That's why these videos matter. That's why this newsletter matters. And that's why I really believe in the future of what this channel and what this entire, production looks like. But I can't stress this enough, guys. This is hard work. Like, I love what I get to do, but it is so hard. And if we want to see real change happen in this country and in this world, we got to do it together. I can't do it by myself. There's just one of me. So what I'd love to ask is, if you are sick of letting the extremes dominate in every conversation, I got to ask you, like, are you ready to step up in this moment and create the future built on truth, built on hope, and built on common sense? Guys, the future doesn't happen by accident. No, we gotta work deliberately to create it. So I'd love to partner with you. I would love for you to not just be someone who, watches these things happen, or just someone who reads these newsletters, but actually, become an investor in what we are doing, become a partner in what we are doing, where we actually elevate conversations that shape the future. I would love for you to be part of this by becoming a paid subscriber. And guys, like, the newsletter is definitely free for everyone. But if you actually want to shape these conversations, if you actually want to become a part of the fabric of the story that we are writing, please be part of this moment. Please be part of this movement. I really believe in this, but I can't do it alone. I can't do it without you. I really believe that the people who watch these videos are some of the best human beings on the planet. They are people who don't just roll over and play dead. They're not people who just stay on the defense. They are people who work deliberately through action, and they go in the offense. They're not waiting for the future. They are the future. So please, if you are able, and if you believe in what we are doing here, please consider becoming a paid subscriber to the Substack. I really believe that this newsletter, that these videos, that everything that we are building here, I believe this could change the world. I believe that the future is not Republican or the future is not Democrat. I believe that the future is independent. I believe media is already going in that direction. But can't do it without you. I need you guys. So please, if if you feel that tug, please consider becoming a paid subscriber, and I would really appreciate that. And also, please go ahead and engage in this conversation. Continue to read it. There's more that I didn't say that I would love to say. I even have, kind of some challenge questions here for you to actually engage with in the comment section. The two questions I ask are, what do you think is the biggest threat to politics today? Do you think it's extremism or something else? Can't wait to hear your thoughts. Is there a way to fix this, or are we simply stuck with outrage politics forever? What's the future here? See, I don't really treat things as if I'm an expert. I really treat things as if I'm a student, still learning how to operate, still trying to understand what all this is designed to do. I'm not attached to anything specific because I know that this world isn't static, but it's dynamic. I know that people are capable of changing their minds, and I know that the future isn't just what it's going to be forever and always. No, we actually have a say in this. We could actually move things. I love that something that Steve Jobs says was, as soon as we learn that the future and everything we learn and appreciate was made by normal people like me and you, everything changes. And I'm just someone who sees where we are going, and I have a vision for a new future. I have a vision for new media. I have a vision for new conversations, and I'd love for you to be part of that. So if that sounds great to you, please consider becoming a paid subscriber to the newsletter. It would mean the absolute world to me. Anyways, that's the whole conversation that I wanted to have. That's the whole video. I thank you so much for your time and for watching it. Please let me know what you thought about this in the comment section. And guys, I will see you all next time. I love you guys. Episode's over already? Geez, that was fast. Well, they say beautiful things do not last forever, but feel free to watch and listen to another one of these episodes if you're interested in those conversations as well. Also, this next part is huge. Make sure to obliterate that like and subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never skip a beat. I also have a newsletter where we dive into the news, politics, and ideas that shape our future. If you're interested in signing up, I'd really appreciate that. Anyways, that's the end of this episode. Thank you so much for watching and listening, and I'll see you next time.